When did you realize this is one extraordinary day?
Well, obviously the landing itself, we watched that live via our closed circuit television. And so we saw the landing occur, and just the fact that the plane didn't hit anything at all when coming down into the waterway was pretty miraculous. As you may or may not know, we have the Hudson River poses challenges to many professional mariners. So the fact that he was able to land that Airbus in the river was pretty remarkable. When we started witnessing passengers evacuating the Airbus, though, that was pretty memorable situation. We knew that they were alive, which is always a good thing. We didn't know at the time how many people were on board, but we immediately launched assets.
Assets of boats and...
Yes, sir. Assets, including boats, helicopters. We notified our port partners and brought a unity of effort to the scene.
We forget, I guess you have helicopter contingents too, as part of what the Coast Guard does.
We do, sir. They were out of Atlantic City, so they had a little bit longer response time than, say, the New York Police Department.
And what did you do after the Coast Guard got mobilized?
Well, we had to maintain accountability. We needed to know how many passengers were on board. We needed to know how many assets were being launched and how many assets were on scene, and again, how many people had evacuated and been taken to safety. So that was our primary concern then. But we also have to focus on what caused the emergency landing, because at the time we didn't have that information. So we had to focus on that effort as well. And then again, strategically thinking long term, how we're going to reopen that waterway, because the Hudson River is a critical waterway to the Port of Albany and north.
You also got to remember this is January.
It is.
This water is not warm and cuddly.
No, sir. It was about 30 degrees.
And so there's real risk if people go into the water that they'll
There is risk.
be in real danger.
Obviously, hypothermia is always a possibility when we talk about cold weather and cold water, because it's not just the water that poses a risk, but also the wind. As we read in the book, and probably we'll see on the movie, there were people that actually entered the water and had to be pulled out to safety, and those people were at the greatest risk of hypothermia.
And how long did this rescue last?
I would say about 4 or 5 hours. I don't know exactly, but I would say about 4 or 5 hours. The rescue response lasted about 4 or 5 hours.
So this was like a classic rescue. I mean, everything worked.
This was a classic rescue where everything worked.
And they were all on shore in a matter of
a few hours.
A few hours. Everybody was on shore.
It was a blessing that it happened in the Hudson River because of all the port partners that are around that area, and also because of the closed circuit television. We were able to watch the majority of what was going on scene, as opposed to some of the cases that we run offshore where we don't have direct eyes on scene.
What is your most vivid memory?
Honestly, I was standing between our vessel traffic service and our command center when the plane went down in the Hudson River. We watched it on that television, and I turned to the crew and said, "All right, here we go," and let them know what was going on. So that was probably the most memorable. But following that incident, we had a picnic in July, which we got to meet some of the people that survived, and that was also very memorable.
A day to remember.
Yes, sir, it was.
Thank you for your good work.
Thank you.